welcome back. Thank you for joining me this evening. My name is Linda. I am known as NenaNits on Instagram and Ravelry. This is a podcast on adventures and misadventures in knitting. I tend to have quite a few misadventures, so I thought I would stick that in there. A little bit about me. This is my second podcast. I hail from Vancouver, British Columbia, actually just outside of Vancouver, about 45 minutes outside of Vancouver in a city called Surrey. And my husband and I live very close to the United States border, so we're in South Surrey. We are in southern Spain at the moment on an extended vacation that we've saved for, so we're very grateful to be doing that. I have been knitting for just about 2 years, really only a year seriously. Something that my sister got me into. I've said this before on my first podcast. My mother actually taught us to knit when we were younger. That didn't really take. So past 40 some odd years, and my sister introduced me to knitting. She actually knit me a shawl, which I can't show you because I did not bring it with me, for one of my birthdays. And it was the Goldfish Memory Shawl by Casapinka. I was stunned at how beautiful that shawl was. The colors that she chose, the yarn that she chose, it was all hedgehog fibers and pinks and chartreuses and soft. Oh, it was just lovely. And I was amazed that she had just learned to relearned to knit herself through YouTube videos and a few other things. So she really got me excited about being able to knit, but she was also very clear it would help me with calming my brain. I was in a very stressful job at the time, so certainly very grateful to my sister Clasina in Virginia. Hi, if you're watching, and I know you are. Very grateful to you for introducing me to this wonderful craft. It has given me so much pleasure, and it's something you and I and Mum now get to do together, so very excited about that. But regarding this particular podcast, you may have seen my previous podcast where I talked a little bit about works in progress and finished objects and what's going on my needles next. But I mentioned as well that I was going to be attending Barcelona Knits. We are in Spain. I said that. I had the opportunity, and it was one of my goals, to fly to Barcelona to attend the second annual Barcelona Knits Festival. So this particular podcast isn't going to cover off any of my knitting or works in progress or finished objects. It is going to focus solely on the stash that I was fortunate enough to bring home with me from Barcelona Knits. And so I would like to introduce to you a few of just a sampling of the yarn dyers that have come from around Europe to be at this particular festival in Barcelona. Pretty big event, I gather, which is kind of nice. Most of the dyers and or designers were actually at their booths, so we had an opportunity to meet them in person. That was a real treat for me. I was even able to meet Stephen from Stephen and Penelope Yarns. I was able to meet Jess Kavanagh from Olin. I met Isabel Kramer. Oh my goodness, it was really exciting because there were workshops happening that weekend as well. The actual Fiber Festival was held on November 16th and 17th, so that's 2 weekends ago now. 2 days long. I underestimated how busy it would be. I don't know what I was thinking, really. It is a festival, yarn. Yarn is becoming more and more and more popular across age groups. All the fiber crafts, from spinning to dyeing to designing to knitting. I am not a dyer. I am not a spinner. I'm not a pattern designer. I am the ultimate consumer and knitter, hopefully, eventually, a lot of knitting. But I'm certainly a consumer at this point of yarns, and I do a little bit of knitting. So I just wanted to share with you some of the dyers and the yarns that I brought back from Barcelona Knits. Now, Barcelona Knits was hosted in Barcelona at the World Trade Centre, which is a perfect venue for this type of an event because it's very, very central. It was very easy for people to get to and from the venue, great transportation, tons of hotels, very cheap to well, I shouldn't say that. That is a matter of context. For me, it was inexpensive to fly internally in Spain from Malaga to Barcelona. It was less than $100 to fly. The hotel itself was less than $100. I stayed in a very, very basic hotel because I didn't plan on staying there very long. And this video will not cover any touristy kind of things in Barcelona because I literally flew in on Saturday morning, arrived at, I'm going to say just about noon on Saturday. The yarn festival was open until 8 at night, and then it again opened from 10 until 6 on Sunday. On the Sunday, I was there from 10 until noon. I had to catch my plane back. So I was only there for a limited period of time and really not a lot of time to do any sightseeing. Not only that, I don't really know anybody in Barcelona, so I was traveling on my own, but it worked out really well. It was a very easy trip, a very comfortable trip. I couldn't say enough about all of the employees that I met along the way, be it the airlines, Vueling Airlines, or at the Hotel Otto Hogar. They were just wonderful. Including all of the folks at the actual Barcelona Knits. Very, very gracious people, and most everybody speaks English. So if you're ever worried about whether or not you can travel around Spain, it is a very comfortable place to visit. So just thought I would put that in there. But in terms of Barcelona Knits, this was one, I'm just going to show you a few of their logos. This was one of their logos, and this is a project bag that I picked up for, I think it was €5 or something like that. They also had their actual Fiberfest stash bag. This was another one of their logos that they were promoting, which was a lot of fun. I love the colors. It's kind of my colors. It's chartreuse and ocean blues. I love those colors. And this was the pin. Of course, whenever you go to a fiber festival, you have to be able to pick up the pin. So this is the pin that I picked up for my project bags. So very cute little lamb. So a lot of fun. So without further ado, why don't I just walk you through some of the yarns? And again, I still apologize if I'm sort of not looking in the right spot in the camera, but I am trying. Let's start with some of the yarn that I purchased and was able to bring home. And crazy, yes, I did bring yarn with me to Spain so I could knit. Certainly not enough to last as long as we're going to be here. So I bought some more yarn, fully intending on going to this festival to buy yarn. I think I bought a little bit more. Wonder if that's a common theme, that I'm actually going to be able to knit while I'm here. But so just ignore that completely and let's go through it. And this is not in any particular order. What I would say is there probably were about 80 vendors there. It was a combination of knitting accessory vendors. So there was project bags, there was a button booth, there was accessories like tools for knitting. There was obviously most of it was the yarn dyers. There were a few magazines actually, and Spanish publications as well as English publications. I think the big English publication was Cables magazine. So they were actually in attendance, and so it was quite nice. And the attendees of this particular festival were very international, just as international as the vendors. I thought more this would be continental Europe. No, it was the UK, it was Australia, it was Poland, it was everywhere. So it was quite neat to see. So let's start. This is a skein that I bought, and I hope you can see the stellina in this skein. It is a beautiful forest green. Does it speak Christmas socks to anybody? Yep, I'm going to be knitting another pair of Christmas socks. But again, we're not going to talk about knitting per se. But this is Arco Iris. This is a dyer from France. I have to put my glasses on because I cannot read. And I won't be able to actually pronounce this particular colorway. It is for Shilangu. I do not know. I just absolutely massacred that, so I apologize. And I'm getting a little bit better at these videos in the sense that I now know how to put notes on and links to other pieces below the show notes of this video, so I will certainly do that. But this is, again, Arco Iris. It is their interstellar yarn, interstellar because it's got the sparkles, and I think you can see the silver stellina because I'm actually doing this in the evening. It's 75% merino superwash, 20% nylon, and 5% stellina, and it's 400 meters, so 100 grams. So this was actually one of my first purchases because I really intended on just buying a few skeins for sock knitting, because sock knitting is very easy and comfortable when you're traveling. So I thought, hey, that was my first purchase and I was very excited. What I will say is, of all the yarn that I saw and all the booths that I got to, I will not do, what I'm going to show you today will not do justice to the amount of color and the beauty of the dye work, from speckles to tonals, to the different bases of yarns that they used. It was spectacular, as it always is at a yarn festival. The next one, and I apologize, I won't pronounce this correctly, was a company called, or a dyer called, it goes by, I guess, 7 Ozek. This was Steffi and they're from Poland. And I purchased this beautiful, the color will not show properly in this video, I'm going to guess, because I'm filming in the evening, but it is a beautiful aubergine. It is a deep plummy color. It is also a DK weight. It is a cashmerino. It is 80% merino, superwash merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. It is absolutely beautiful. Most of what I bought on this trip is DK, and the reason for that is I have a lot of fingering weight yarns at home. When I first started getting interested in knitting, the first thing that I loved was, or the first thing I was attracted to, was the color of all the different yarns. Who isn't attracted to all the different colors of yarn? Speckles and tonals and beautiful, amazing colors, and then trying to put them all together. You end up, I did what probably most newbies do, is you buy a lot of yarn without a project in mind. I was buying a lot of fingering weight yarn. I didn't really understand the different weights of yarn at that time, or the different bases. So I have a lot of fingering weight yarn. Great for hats, great for shawls, some sweaters if I mix them with mohair. So my goal, if I was going to buy any yarn going forward, I'd be looking for DK weight yarn to sort of build up a stash of DK, as well as some mohairs that can potentially go with some of the fingering weight yarns that I already have in my stash. I'm hoping fingering, using two yarns together still will hold true in terms of fashion in knitting for a while, because certainly this year, every time I was on Instagram, there were recommendations about holding the fingering weight yarn with a mohair, and look at the beautiful product that you get. They were stunning, all of them. So I certainly had that in mind as well when I went to this yarn festival. But certainly love this. At the same booth I purchased, good segue into mohair, was this beautiful, I wish I could get the color right, beautiful mohair. And this is a kid silk mohair. It is, I think, 70% kid mohair and 30% silk. And I will say straight off the bat, I bought a couple of mohairs, which I will show you. It doesn't seem like a 2% difference of mohair to silk would make a difference, but 2% more silk in a blend like this, I notice a difference. I notice a difference in how soft the yarn actually is. I'll show you another one in a minute, but this one is 70-30, and while all of the mohair that I bought is extremely soft and not scratchy or prickly at all, there's a definitely difference with this one. I notice it's softer, and I'm assuming it's the silk. It might be the weave. I'm not sure, but I think it might be the silk. And so that's something that I'd like to explore a little bit more. But this is a beautiful one. Does it have a colorway? Eggplant. There you go. I said this was aubergine. This one has a long French name. Oh, but this one is, this one is called Blackout. I apologize. The colorway for this aubergine plummy one is Blackout. This one is actually called Eggplant. Gotta laugh at that. I was actually thinking those two might go nicely together, for a nice sweater, because I did buy a sweater's quantity worth, but at the same time, I really love this deep eggplant plummy purple. Wasn't too sure I wanted to lighten it up, so I have an option there. So that's kind of exciting. The next dyer I'd like to introduce you to is Frida Fuchs. Hoping you can see this. Frida Fuchs. These lovely ladies were from Berlin. They own a store called Yarn Up Berlin. And this is a beautiful tonal blue. It's not navy and it's not royal blue. It's somewhere in between. It is 100% superwash merino, DK, go figure. What I will say is the color is, don't laugh when I say this, Wacholderbeer. Wacholderbeer. I don't think that's correct. It's German and I did not do that correctly. But again, I'll put the name on my notes. But this was an absolutely lovely yarn. No sooner, and right beside this particular booth, or very close to it anyway, was a Irish dyer by the name of Townhouse Yarns. So this is Townhouse Yarns. This is their logo. I don't know if you can see that. I hope that'll be somewhat in focus. Townhouse Yarns. And what I bought from them, yes, I know I said I was going to buy DK and Mohair, and that's exactly what I did. I was very true to my goal. This is called Dublin. So Dublin. Abbey lace. It's on their Abbey lace base, and it is 72% mohair and 28% silk. And you get quite a lot. You get 420 meters with this. And so again, when I talked about 70-30 versus, what did I say this one was? 72-28, just that 2% difference in the silk, certainly to my sense, makes a little bit of a difference. This is very soft, not prickly at all, but this is super duper, super soft. So, love them both, but look at the color in this. This is fantastic. This is showing up quite true on my camera. The brilliant ocean blues, all the different versions of them. And it didn't take much for me to put those two together. Now, the blue from Frida Fuchs is coming up a little purpley on my camera. It's not purpley at all, at least not to my naked eye here. But that would make a beautiful combination, maybe a Millie sweater. My sister Clasina and I are doing a bit of a knit along. She's way ahead of me. She's already cast on her Millie sweater. So it's something I have to do. So I was very intentional in wanting to cast on a Millie, and I am going to do it in a DK weight. So a little thicker yarn, but that was my project that I will start for that. The next one I'd like to show you is Frida Val Borg. I just love that. The dyers are Frida Val Borg. I'm probably not saying that right either, but this is custom dyed yarn for Stephen and Penelope's shop. And this is absolutely a beautiful base. It is 80% merino, 20% nylon. This is their merino swirl base, and I fell in love with it. Partly because of the name, but partly because, and mostly because of the colorway, which is coffee shop. This absolutely reminds me of a cafe latte mixed with Neapolitan ice cream, and it just made me very, very happy. Such a beautiful, soft colorway that really appealed to me when I went to their booth. And this is the only, yes, I did break down and buy fingering weight, but this is the only fingering weight yarn that I bought, and it is I think it is a 4-ply, if not a 2-ply. It doesn't tell me, but it is applied. It is applied fingering, and it is super soft. That's all I'm going to say about that. So Frida Val Borg, this I have never seen in Canada at all. None of these have I seen in Canada. The next yarn was from, I do believe, Italy. So again, I've bought yarn from Polish dyers. I've bought yarn from German dyers. I've bought yarn from Irish dyers. I've bought yarn from, where is this? This is sold through Amsterdam. I'm not too sure where it's, I think this is Swedish, believe it or not. Swedish yarn. Now I'm buying yarn that's Italian. This is Live or Die Yarn, and they're based out of Italy, and this is a beautiful mohair. Now look at this mohair silk. I have been searching a long time for a beautiful pink, just the right pink. It's not pale and it's not neon pink. It is this beautiful, just the perfect blush pink that I would like to pair with some of the fingering yarn that I have at home. I have 2 skeins, I think 800 yards or 800 meters of 800 yards of Madeline Tosh. Mad Tosh, yes, just her single merino singles. That's just a beautiful pink, but again, it's fingering weight, and so I didn't want to make a fingering weight sweater out of it. Not only that, it's not applied yarn, so I was worried that it would pill a little bit. So I wanted to pair it with a mohair, and this was absolutely perfect. So very excited. This is called, does this have a colorway? Oh, very original, baby pink. So, okay, not the most exciting name, but love the color. Then I'd like to introduce, and I'm sure most of you probably who are watching this have heard of this particular dyer. Again, this is Jess Kavanagh. She is from Ireland as well. And this is a yarn I've seen in the United States. I haven't seen this at home in Canada, but it might be there. And it's Olin Yarns. I hope you can see that. I hope it focuses properly for you. This again is a DK weight, and it is Donegal DK. So it is 85% superwash merino and 15% Donegal nep. I don't know what that means actually, but Donegal is a type of sheep. This is the color field, the colorway field. This was, oh, I just gravitated to this. And I do laugh a little bit, you know, they always say that your palate changes, certainly when we're talking about food, your taste changes over time. So does your color palette. When I was much younger, my family can attest to this, all I did was wear earth tones. I was into earth tones. It had to be olive or gray or black or brown. Now I'm obviously, my palette has expanded. I like all sorts of colors, but I have to say that when I saw this at their booth, I fell in love with it immediately. It was this one, which is field, and this colorway, which is called Renegade. Again, Olin Yarns from Ireland. Jess Kavanagh is the dyer. This is showing up beautifully. Look how bright that green is, along with a little bit of browns and grays. And so she had, they say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and it's true. So please take this as a compliment, Miss Kavanagh. She had knit, and I do believe it was a Caitlin Hunter sweater. I will look at that and confirm that that was the designer of the sweater. It's called the Guthrie, and if I've got it wrong, I apologize, but I will put it in my show notes. What was so amazing about this particular sweater was that while it was a color work sweater, so it had the main color and a contrast color, the difference between the 2 yarns was very subtle, and it produced such a beautiful result. Definitely you could tell it was a color work sweater, but it wasn't a stark, harsh contrast. So I fell in love with these two to actually pair them together to do that sweater. So I'm very excited to start that. Another yarn that I saw was, this is from Holland. I do believe it's from Holland, made in the Netherlands. Yes, see, there you go. See, I am all over Europe at this festival. This is fantastic. This is not something that I would ever get at home. And I'm not going to pronounce this right either. Ushatita Fiber Arts. Again, don't know how well this is focusing, but Ushatita Fiber Arts. This this booth, oh my goodness, I could have, had I stopped here first, I might have bought the entire booth worth of yarn. The colorways were amazing. This is 100% superwash DK. This particular colorway is called Gaudi, and this colorway is the actual color of Barcelona Knits Festival. So this was their commemorative colorway. So very happy to have been able to get a skein of that. On my mission to have more DK and thinking about, I have a beautiful pom-pom that's sort of a dusty rosy pink. Thinking about perhaps knitting a hat for myself. Again, I can't read the name of the colorway for this one. It doesn't make any sense to me. It seems like it's Doctes Dyer Desk. 3 words, doesn't make any sense to me, I'm sorry. But look at how beautiful that is. I hope you can see the dusty roses, the burgundies, a little bit of green, some cream. Absolutely lovely. And so I fell in love with that too. And this is about the squishiest DK. This, you know, I keep thinking this must be more like a worsted, but it is the squishiest DK of the bunch that I have purchased. And so just so excited to have that in my stash. This is one of my favorite finds, Murmur. Murmur is a base that is dyed by, or I don't know if it's a base, but Murmur is the actual product that is dyed by All You Knit Is Love. Don't know if you can see that little logo that says All You Knit Is Love. This is Jennifer and Mikel out of All You Knit Is Love yarn store in Barcelona. So yes, a Spanish dyer and a yarn store. So I'm happy to support that. This particular colorway is called, it's called Brocade. Look at the colors. Jennifer has just done such an amazing job. All the plums and the greens, and this is a true speckle. Oh, it's just got every color in it, and it is super soft. This one is 75% merino, 25% cashmere. Again, it's called Murmur, and underneath it says the sound of softness. Isn't that cute? But absolutely, it is super duper squishy soft. That was the yarn that I purchased, so I certainly wanted to cover that off. One other booth that I stopped off at, and I stopped at a lot of booths, but another one where I made a purchase was, I think it's called Retrosaria. Retrosaria was Rosa Pomar. I've heard of Rosa Pomar. I've heard of her yarns, come highly recommended. They're out of Portugal. And it's funny because a lot of the yarns that were at the festival were quite rustic. 2 things I noticed. One, there was not a huge selection of DK, although I got the best of the best. I loved everything that I purchased, but DK was not the favored weight of, or base of, or weight of yarn, I suppose. Fingering and sport weight were by far the most yarn that was at this particular festival, and perhaps that's because of transport. It's just they can bring more when it's a lighter weight, I'm not sure. The other thing is there was an equal amount, 50-50, of the beautiful soft merino types of wool, and then the more rustic yarns, the much more fibrous rustic yarns. And they came from Italy and Portugal and Holland and Sweden and Norway and a whole bunch of different countries, and Ireland. Ireland had a lot of it as well. And I'm just not that familiar with rustic yarns, and I'm not too sure how they would wash up or bloom or the scratchy factor. And I regret not taking the leap to actually purchase some of that yarn, certainly from Rosa Pomar. Beautiful colors, but what I laughed about was when I got back, Espace Tricot, Lisa and Melissa had just launched, just uploaded their latest video, and they were talking all about take the leap, try a rustic yarn, you'll love it. And I kept going, drat, darn, I didn't do that and I should have, but it is what it is. I did, however, purchase something that is my sort of souvenir of Barcelona knits, and that is this. This is a handmade, hand-stitched leather case. I'm considering it a sock project case because it is the perfect size for me for a skein of yarn. I've got socks in here right now. I'm not going to talk about those today, but I've got a skein split in two, and I am doing socks on the magic loop method, and they are in here, and I love this. One, I love it because it's handmade. It's from Portugal, which is very sentimental to me. I know this leather is going to color and age beautifully over time because I know what this is. And I don't know if it's pigskin or cowskin, but I'm familiar with this particular color from South America as being pigskin, but I don't know. But this is made by a company, a gentleman, and the company is called Caballero. And so I will put that on my notes as well, but I put it as well on Instagram because I thought the craftsmanship was so good. I had to share it, and I absolutely love this, and it's the perfect size for me. This is perfect for putting in, you know, your backpack to sort of keep your knitting all together, and it's certainly a great travel piece. So I absolutely love that. The last thing that I want to share is this particular dyer, Greta and the Fibers. Greta and the Fibers are from Australia, of all things. And I did actually want to go to their booth because I read up on them, and they have just some beautiful colors and some beautiful bases. But honestly, by this time, I'd pretty much run out of money. I apologize, Greta and the Fibers, but I did. But funny enough, I still have two skeins. I have a skein. This is, oh, I forgot my glasses. What happened to my glasses? This is a skein of sock yarn. It is 75% wool, 25% nylon in a beautiful oyster color. It's just color 929, but I hope you can see it. It's a beautiful light oyster color, along with a mini skein of same base, color 827 in a beautiful sage. It's coming on my camera a little bit brighter green. It is a muted, very soft sage green in real life. Funny thing, I did not purchase these yarns. I won these yarns. So if you saw my podcast last time, part of going to Barcelona Knits was I joined a Cowl. I thought, okay, well, I'll join a Cowl, go to Barcelona Knits, and hopefully meet a few people. And the Cowl that I joined was the Endecha Shawl Cowl by Belen. This is Belen, that's her picture, Belen Fernandez. And this is the shawl that we were all to knit. That is my version of it, seen there. And I did wear that to Barcelona Knits. And the whole idea was we were going to meet up with a whole bunch of people. I think there was over 100 people who joined this Cowl that were going to Barcelona Knits, and meet at 12 o'clock in the main atrium and take a photograph. And I thought that'd be a really nice way to meet folks. Didn't quite work out that way, only because this festival, as I said, was so popular, so busy. I arrived at probably 11:30, now that I think about it, 11:30. It took almost an hour to get into the festival. I already pre-purchased tickets, but the lineup, there was two lineups, one to purchase tickets and one to purchase for people that already purchased tickets. And it doesn't matter what lineup you are, it was going to be a minimum of an hour to get in. They had to actually control the volume of people going into this venue. There were so many people. And one of the reasons I didn't get to actually see all of the vendors was because the crush of people was just too big. So they're already thinking next year they've got to expand. They've got to go to a bigger venue or rent more space at the World Trade Center. So it was quite funny. But needless to say, a great event. I had a blast. I met amazing people. And certainly I won't be able to come back next year at this time, but if you are traveling in Spain in the month of November and you're heading to Barcelona, which is a huge destination, you might want to seriously take into consideration going, because it was very well organized. They did a fabulous job for only their second year. Wonderful vendors, just a great experience overall. So that is what I wanted to share with you regarding Barcelona Knits. At the end of this video, I am going to include some photographs of Barcelona Knits, not a ton of them, just what I was able to take, because there was so much bumping and jostling. I didn't really get some good photos of everything, but I did want to share with you what I did take. At the same time, in my notes, I will also include links to 1 or 2 podcasts that did a very, very good and professional job, much more so than me, on Barcelona Knits, because it was truly a fun festival to go to, and I thoroughly enjoyed participating. Last, before I sign off, I will be doing another podcast just to take up on where I'm at with my knitting and share some misadventures in knitting with NenaNits. And so that'll come out in a week or so. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found the yarn kind of fun and informative of some of the dyers. And thank you so much for spending this time and for watching. Would love your feedback. Any kind of comments would be most welcome, and very pleased to have been able to share this with you. Anyway, thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll talk soon. Take care.